Welcome to another episode of DD on the Spot. As always, I'm your host, Ryan Johnson. Before I get to our guest here today, I'd like to remind everyone that if you enjoy this content, to please give a like and subscribe down below. We'd greatly appreciate it. We have Emily Donkers on the podcast with us. She's 23 years old, believe it or not. I mean, I'm 24 and she's in better shape than me, so this is just ridiculous. I don't know how I'm going to be able to get through this. But she's coming to us all the way from Canada. She's a personal trainer. Most importantly, though, she's our current guest. Emily, thank you so much for being on.
And thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. So why don't you tell us, first of all, I mean, being in Canada, what is the weather like where you're at right now? What is the temperature?
Oh, yeah, you called at a good time, actually. It is absolutely freezing outside. It's been negative, I think, 30 the past few days. So, as you know, some of our cars won't start, or your hair is freezing when you go outside. So, it's been very, very cold. But it's actually supposed to go up to +8, I think, in 2 days. So, it's just been a whole whirlwind of
Are we
crazy
talking
weather.
Celsius or Fahrenheit?
Celsius.
Okay, yeah, so that's, yeah, because I was gonna say so +8, yeah, that's a little, yeah, so that's, yeah, but still, it's very, very cold. So for me in Minnesota, it was negative 27 Fahrenheit 2 days ago, and I have a job. I work at UPS full time. That's my full time gig, and I'm a supervisor. So every night I have to go out as a supervisor. At the end of the shift, me and two other supervisors have to go out and check all 140 trucks in the yard, check and see if there's any packages, any missed stuff in it, just to make sure that everything's going good. So yeah, I went out there on Tuesday, and with the wind chill, it was negative 60.
Oh my.
So I was out there for 45 minutes. My clothing, I had five layers of tops on. So I had five, jackets and sweaters. I had my regular cargo jeans that I got to wear for work, and then I had three sweatpants on top of that. 3 pairs of socks on each foot, 3 pairs of gloves, 3 pairs of masks, and then one of those Russian hats that's really, really warm. And then I put the jacket on the thing on top of it. And yeah, I was the only one there that was actually, I was completely fine because I was like I described, I was good, and I had feet warmers and hand warmers everywhere. But yeah,
That was
it
my
was.
next question. Were you still warm?
Well, yeah, because I was the only one that came prepared. One of the benefits of working out for me too is I was able to actually lift all that stuff and carry it into the work, because yeah, it was a lot of stuff. But yeah, it was one of those things too where, I mean, it was insane. Like, my eyelashes froze together because my eyes, it was literally, this is the only thing that I could see that wasn't covered up. But yeah, it was ridiculous. But now it's getting a little bit warmer. I mean, to show how bipolar Minnesota weather can be, it's negative 27 on Tuesday, and then on Saturday it's going to be 40 degrees. So that's like a 65-degree change in the span of 3 days. But yeah, I definitely, Canada gets it a little bit rougher than we do. But yeah, we definitely understand a lot to the cold weather. But why don't you give us, to start off, a little bit of, so now, I mean, we've already depressed everyone talking about our weather, but now we're going to make it a little more positive. So why don't you give us a little bit of a backstory on what inspired you to make that change and adapt that healthy and fit lifestyle?
Well, I've always been very active growing up. Like, grew up in a very active household. So my parents were always into sports. My brothers, I have two older brothers, and they were always very into sports, different sports as well. So that always kind of inspired me to be active and
Wait,
things
wait,
like
wait, not just hockey?
not just hockey. No, we weren't just
This
hockey in
We're
Canada.
breaking stereotypes left and right to start out the
Like,
gate here. Yeah, but
no,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like volleyball, swimming, baseball, whatever it is, you name it. I pretty much played it. So I couldn't get enough of sports, couldn't get enough of the active life. But actually, the main reason why I started lifting weights when I was younger, and I was probably in grade 7 or 8 at that time, was because I wanted girls to notice me. Is because I wanted girls to feel my biceps and things like that, because I was obviously more into girls than I was into boys. So having their attention really was something I wanted. So I knew by kind of standing out that I could get that. And well, safe to say it's worked so far. But yeah, that's actually a really big reason why I got into it. And then in high school, I was still playing on all kinds of different varsity sports and things like that. And I actually was the only girl who took my weight class in grade 11. So that'd be sophomore year for you guys. Um, so yeah, I was the only girl. I loved working out with the boys. I loved being strong, feeling strong, having them motivating me. And then after that, uh, I kind of started applying for schools. And then I eventually applied to the University of Guelph for nutrition. So I took 4 years there to study applied human nutrition. So, how you can nutritionally manage different health conditions such as diabetes, such as hypertension, gastrointestinal disorders, everything like that. So, it was very, very rewarding. And actually, while I was studying there, I worked for the Guelph gym as well. And that's when I got my personal training certificate and I started working for the Guelph gym as a trainer.
That's awesome. And again, I mean, I understand your struggle. Believe me, I like girls and I wanted them to feel my arms too. And I wanted to get into that. So yeah, it was definitely for me too. That was one of the main motivators that got to me. I mean, even in high school, everyone always knows, all the guys in the gym. But yeah, that was definitely, so yeah, I definitely understand that. But I mean, I always love to make the statement that, I mean, if you were to walk into a gym with 100 people, there are 100 different ways as to how they got into the shape that they're in, whether it comes down to their diet, their nutrition, what exercises they do, how many reps they do. I mean, there's so many little things that add up to the package that people end up seeing overall. Was that a struggle for you at first, sort of realizing what worked best for your body? Because I always like to say, if you were to go and walk up to someone and say, hey, what did you train for that body part? It looks amazing. What works best for them 99% of the time isn't going to work as good for you.
For sure. And I think because I just took to sports really well, I started using those more as my workouts. And a lot of my sports teams would send us home with workouts to do. So that obviously got me into it and gave me insight as to what I should be doing. So, like push ups, crunches, sprints, jogging, things like that. So, that was my first base of knowledge for working out was from sports. But after that, I just started kind of taking to the internet, looking into what guys were doing because I wanted to look more like them than the typical woman. Um, Back to kind of what you were saying about how women are kind of scared of weights and things like that.
That's our next question. Yep.
Yeah, I was absolutely not scared of weights. So I wanted to do exactly what all the guys were doing. And I kind of used their workouts, men's health, whatever it was, whatever I could find. And that was my base pretty much. And I started developing arms, abs, things like that. And that's exactly what I wanted was to have all those things that really caught people's eye attention.
Yeah, and I mean that's awesome because like what I'm going to say with our next myth, I mean that women just have this fear. I mean it's gotten better with Instagram, but there's still this fear that if they touch one weight, they're just going to hulk out and put on 50 pounds. I mean you wanted that, so I mean that makes this question even easier. But I always say then to the people that are like personal trainers or just the healthy people in general, what is your main reaction to that when you hear that in the gym from potential clients or just people in general? What do you like to respond to that with?
It's gonna take a long time for you to put on that kind of muscle. Even for me, which I think I'm quite muscular, I've been doing this for about 10 years now. So, and I've been doing it hard, like 6 days a week, an hour and a half pretty much every day. So, in order for you to really look like that, you really have to put in the time, the effort, the uh, weights, just everything in general, because it's not just gonna come
Mhm.
naturally. Like if you're working out 3 times a week, that's a really good way to start. That's good level to maintain with. But you're not going to be putting on crazy amounts of muscle, especially women. That takes a lot of effort and time. And I don't want them to be afraid of weights because actually weights are better for raising your metabolism, for helping you burn calories, for really shaping your muscles, your arms, your legs, everything. So I don't want people to be scared of weights and I don't want them to just go straight to cardio because I think that's what a lot of women think that they need is constant cardio, constant lose those calories they just ate. But honestly, it's actually more effective to use weights and therefore they should
Well,
indulge.
absolutely. And I always say, like, I always tell the story about when I was in college. I had a friend, I'd put on a lot of muscle, and she came up to me. She said, like, you work out a lot. I want to go to the gym, but I'm just afraid of getting too bulky. I want to get more tone, which, first of all, tone is not a real thing. I hate it when people say that. It's like, no, tone is not a real thing. But then she said, like, but I'm just afraid I'm going to get too bulky. And I said to her one night, I finally said, look, the amount of weight that you carry in your purse when we go out to clubs or when we go out to eat weighs more than 90% of the dumbbells in the gym, and you are not getting an ounce of muscle from lugging that thing around 24/7. Then she's like, oh, you're right. So then she started going in, then she saw results. And I mean, I tell everyone else, I always say, what's the worst thing that's going to happen? You're going to get healthier. And
Mhm.
the biggest benefit for women, especially far more than men, I think, at least from my personal experience in talking to people and, just seeing the results, but is the confidence boost that it gives them. Because like we were talking about before we started the podcast, they're these out of shape guys that walk in, they look like they own the gym or they try to give off that demeanor, but a lot of it's fake confidence. But still, just with the women too, a lot of them are afraid, like you said, to touch the weight. But once they do that and they see those changes and realize, it is not going to happen overnight, just the confidence boost that it gives them knowing that they accomplished something. Could you kind of explain how that impacted your life personally, just starting with the working out, that confidence boost? Because I mean, the confidence boost is probably the biggest thing that you can transfer from working out to every other aspect in your life.
Totally. I have seen a huge difference in my confidence. I felt like before I was kind of quiet, I was more introverted. And once I started seeing results, once I started seeing muscle and seeing that things were changing and I was happier with the way my clothes fit and just the way people looked at me and things like that, but I definitely noticed a huge confidence boost. And I feel like before I would kind of shy away from people looking at me at the gym, but now I love it. I live for it. I want people to look at me. I want them to notice me. I want them to ask me questions, like even if it's just like, "Hey, am I doing this exercise right? Hey, like, do you have any ideas for working out, whatever it is?" So I really, really appreciate that attention that I've gotten, and I really want to convey that confidence to other women as well because it's going to take a lot longer for us women to put on muscles compared to men. And I think women need to know that. Like as soon as they pick up a weight and press it, they're not going to be bulging chest muscles kind of thing.
Unfortunately, yep.
But I really think that's been the biggest change for me is the confidence thing. And actually, multiple people have said something to me just wherever we are, just kind of be like, "Hey, like you are much more outspoken, you're much more extroverted. Like I can tell you're confident, even just the way you carry yourself, the way you talk to people." And for me, that was a huge, huge win. And like you can't get much better than that because, like you said, it does transfer into your everyday life. And now I carry myself much more confidently at work, at school, in the gym, you name it.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more with that. And I mean, it's just so fascinating to see how that can affect your mindset and just make people definitely just carry themselves with their head held higher. But now, one of my favorite questions to ask, because, everyone's genetics are different, so this always makes the answers interesting. But whenever people get started working out, there's always that one body part that really takes off for them that they don't have to train as much. And then there's always that one body part that lags behind that. I mean, they have to train into overdrive. I'll give an example for me. So for me, my back, I mean, I could train back, once a month and it would still look good. I mean, I have no idea why that happens, but also I'm 6'3", so my legs are just, they're shit. So like I have to, train them into overdrive, twice a week. I have that pitcher's body where I, just had to be long and lengthy and a little skinny. So yeah, that was a real big difficulty for me. But what were those for you when you started out? What was one body part that you really didn't need to work on as much, and one body part that you really needed to train to overdrive?
I would say I didn't need to work on my legs as much when I was growing up, just because I was a hockey player
Yeah.
and I was a lacrosse player. I was a track runner too, so I found that my legs were totally kind of taken care of by all those sports, and actually didn't get into really lifting with my legs or working my legs until probably late high school, early university. And like now I absolutely love it. I love doing leg day, but and the one that I constantly found I need to keep working on, I don't know if it's just me, but I loved working on my biceps. My brothers always told me it's buys for the eyes and
Yep.
tries for the size. I'm sure you've heard that, but I always just wanted to keep developing my arms, my biceps, and I felt like that took the longest. I don't know if it was just genetics, but I definitely was the most committed to that, and my abs too,
Yeah.
actually.
Yeah, and those, I mean, yeah, we get those answers all the time. But yeah, my biggest one is calves. I mean, I could never grow calves, no matter. And that's the most genetic thing I think that there is, because we had one guest asked the same question. She put her calves up on the table, and I was like, okay, we're done here. We're done here. It's like, this isn't fair. I was like, that's not fair. Her calves were like almost as big as my thighs, and I was like, what? I was like, how? And it's because I always said, like, I could do 10,000 calf raises a day. I could inject pure muscle into my calves and nothing would work. I mean, it is absolutely ridiculous. So yeah, that's definitely my
Yeah.
my area where I'm just like, yeah, that is so genetic that it is not fair. But
Well,
when you
same
were
my abs too, though, actually, because I know I already mentioned them, but I have really long torso and a
Mhm.
really short lower body. So I find for me to really see more definition in my abs, I have to work on them that much
Right.
harder because I have that much more surface area
Mhm.
versus my legs. I find I can kind of get away with less because less to work with.
Yeah, that I mean, the only bad thing about being a guy when it comes to working out is that most of your fat goes straight to your stomach, whereas opposed to like women, it goes more to your legs and your thighs. So
Behind
yeah,
your
that's
arm. It's the
Oh,
wing.
oh, that too. Yeah, that too. So that's the one bad thing about being a guy is that having abs, it takes a lot more dedication. I mean, I'm currently in my winter bulk. I mean, I don't compete or anything, but I put on, like 10 to 15 pounds every winter just to survive because when it gets to be as cold as it gets, you don't want to be super lean and super skinny because walking outside, you're going to,
Freeze.
freeze. Yeah, you're going to freeze. So yeah, that's why I enjoy the winter a little bit. I mean, I get to have a few milkshakes every once in a while. You get to have a little bit more ice cream. So it works its ways. I mean, I don't start cutting for probably another month or so, probably like late March, just because winter here lasts very, very long. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I just love asking that because it just shows how different everyone's body is. But when you were getting started with your personal training, what would you say was the number one excuse that you heard from people who didn't want to adapt that healthy and fit lifestyle? What was the number one thing that they said that they couldn't do because of?
Because they didn't have the time. And for me, that was not a very good answer because everyone always has the time. They just have to be dedicated to it. You can wake up half an hour earlier, you can go to bed half an hour later, you can do it during your lunch break, you can do it as you're doing chores around the house. You can just integrate it into your everyday life. So when people said they didn't have the time, that to me is not a viable excuse. I feel like if you really want it, then you would do it.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, I say that all the time. Like I've had nurses on the show that work like 16-hour shifts, and they're still able to get their workouts in. So I mean, it really is like you said. It's all about how much you want it. And I always said, again, this is not stalking, but if you were to follow around a person for a day and literally just like write down everything that they did in that day, kind of like just a chart, and then if you were to show them that at the end of the day, I can guarantee you would find probably 2 to 3 hours worth of time where they were, just sitting around on their phone or they were doing something. And if you went over it with them at the end, it'd be like, there, you could have gotten like 3 workouts in during that time, and you only need to do one. So it's,
Mm.
yeah, I always say that, but yeah, some people are genuinely busy, but yeah, the vast majority of people, they use that just as an excuse. Yeah, every single time,
And
like you
yeah,
said.
like if you're sitting watching TV or something, just getting up during commercials or, even just getting down in between your Netflix shows, you have that 30-second window, I think.
Yeah,
And just getting down doing a 30-second plank because something is better than nothing.
yeah,
And I think people need to realize that.
I,
It's
I
like anything counts.
I couldn't agree more. And I always like to say, I mean, especially for being a guest that also lives in a very cold climate, such as myself, what are some ways during the winter that you're able to motivate yourself to go to the gym and to still stay in shape? Because, like you said, sometimes when it gets to be this cold, your car won't start, other problems arise where you can't go to the gym, or your body's just basically telling you, like you said, let's just stay at home and watch Netflix and just relax because, I mean, it's too cold outside. But what are some ways mentally that you just are able to convince yourself, like, hey, I still need to get this workout in no matter what?
I always try to do something. Even if, like, let's say I can't get to the gym because my car won't start, you can do something at home. You don't need equipment. You can use your own body. You have all of the equipment you need right here.
Yeah.
So just getting down on the floor, doing things on the mat, whatever it is, just doing full body weight exercises is a really great way to maintain your fitness and everything like that. If you couldn't make it to the gym, but even if you just go out for a walk during the cold weather. Just bundle up, go for a walk, and you'll be happy you did it after you've done it. You might not at the start because starting is the hardest part, but once you're out there, you'll be very, very satisfied that you made the decision to do that.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more. And I always love to ask, all the personal trainers that we have on, what is that experience like for you when you get to see those results that you get for those clients? Because we see all these transformation stories. We see, how great it is for the client, like I've lost all this weight, I've gained all this confidence. But what is that feeling like for the trainers? I always love to ask. So for you, when you see that happening to your client, when you see a change and you know that it's because of you, because of all the wisdom and the guidance that you've given that person, that they're able to make that change, what is that feeling like for you?
I would say it's just as rewarding for us as it is for them. Like just seeing their smile on their face, just seeing how they talk about it too, just their vibes that they're giving off to everyone are so positive, are so uplifting. And I actually have a lady that I work with at my personal training studio. She's in her 60s, I believe. And so actually, her daughter came in one time, and it was the two of them working out, and I was leading it. And so I tried to do a lot of exercises where they could work together. So, like planking and clapping and things like that. And they absolutely loved it. But her daughter couldn't tell me enough how nice it was to see her mom so like confident and in her like strength. So being able to like lift herself out of the pool, being able to pull herself up onto a boat, just being able to get up and reach for things off the top shelf. And just hearing her daughter say that to me was super, super rewarding. And those are the things you live for because you actually see you're making a difference in these people's lives.
And I say that's one of the very positive things about being a personal trainer is that you actually can see your results as opposed to someone, if you have a desk job and, your results are just basically all, computerized where you don't see firsthand exactly what you're doing. And that can make all the difference in the world. But what has been your biggest struggle being a personal trainer? What would you say is one thing that the general public doesn't realize that is a struggle about being a personal trainer?
I would say just you have to be in it all the time. Like you have to be constantly monitoring, you have to be constantly engaged. You can't take really a second off because if you take that second off, that weight might go over and they might pop their shoulder out or something like that. So it can be quite exhausting, especially if you have so many clients one after another, because you're constantly super engaged, talking to them, watching them, guiding them, whatever it is. So that attention that you're giving them, it can be very exhausting because you are theirs for that hour and only theirs. So you have to give them everything you can. You have to be dedicated to them. So yeah, no, it's definitely tiring after a while, just being constantly in it.
I understand that. I mean, I don't do it as much, but if I have like 3 podcasts in a day and just you have to be constantly in it the whole time, I totally understand that. So and for anyone out there who's wondering what it's like, it can be very, very draining on you. But you have to do it. I mean, it's definitely part of the job, but so that makes it, just a little bit more difficult. But also going into personal training, I always love to ask when it comes down to clients and what you try to guide them with, what are some ways that you use where when it comes to everyone has like different body types, everyone has different, metabolisms. How do you sort of figure out what works best for the individual client? I know it's a process, but are there any techniques that you use to help you best realize like, oh, this diet would work great for this person or this type of training would work great for that person? Is it just a lot of trial and error?
It's definitely some trial and error, but you can also get a sense of, like through an assessment, you can get a sense of what they can handle as well, like what their blood pressure is like, what their fitness level is already, like what are they coming into, and also just what else? Can you repeat the question? Sorry.
Oh yeah. So like what are some techniques or ways that you use just to know like what type of training would work best for them or what type of nutrition would work best for them? Because like we were talking about, like with one of the first questions, everyone is different.
Yes. So obviously with nutrition, especially too, if they have intolerances or if they're allergic to things, I have to be very conscious of that when I'm kind of discussing their nutrition with them. But typically, it depends what their age group is as well. Like I can obviously go a lot harder and a lot higher impact with younger people versus with older people. I have to be more timely. I have to be very diligent in my guiding with them and just breathing and things like that. It's very important. But with just those two things on their own, it's definitely um, just the adjustments for
Yeah.
sure. And like with younger people, you can do more sport like things, more active things, more dynamic exercises. Than with older people, you might have to just alter your training a little bit. And typically, also with people who may be overweight, you may not necessarily need to do as much stretching for them because they're already kind of carrying extra weights. They're kind of yanking their body in ways that it's already being stretched. So just little adjustments like that, you definitely have to take into account. But yeah, that's about it.
Yeah, and it's just so interesting to find out how individually, trainers find out their ways on how to train people. It is just super, super fascinating. But two of the questions that I always love to ask, all of our health and fitness guests when they come on. For the first one, for me personally, I always like to say, when I got started in the gym and got bigger and stronger, there's so many positive things that came with it. But there is a negative thing. You're gonna get asked to move a lot of people's furniture. You're gonna get asked to open a lot of pickle jars. I'm still home with my parents for the next couple of months before I move out, and every time they come home, I basically lift all of the all the food into from the driveway into the house. Have you
Yeah.
found that to be a similar experience where just people just take one look at you and they just assume that you can do favors like that for them?
Oh, of course. I think I do everything like that for my girlfriend. Yeah, whatever it is opening a can of pasta, or if it's, can you help me carry this couch out of the house, or whatever it is, or um, just can you run back to the house and grab the keys because we forgot them. It's always going to be me nominated,
Hmm.
but I'm happy to do it because hey, if I can throw some more fitness into my day, then by all means.
Yeah.
But back to your previous question, I just wanted to add to it. So obviously, when people come in, they have goals. So you want to stick to their goals, and you kind of have an idea of what you want the end goal to be.
Mhm.
So by them giving you what they're interested in, what they're looking for, you can kind of create those stepping stones being a personal trainer. Just like, okay, by this time I want to be here, by this time I want to be here, and just having a timeline to gauge where you want your client to be at each kind of point. And obviously, you want to do things kind of that they're interested in as well. You don't want to go in there as the client and just like, if I'm not interested in doing sports like things, I don't want to make them do that. So just trying to make it more enjoyable for everyone so that they are more committed to it, they're more dedicated to it, and they're more driven to their goals and results.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, like, yeah, I couldn't agree more with that. And then also going back to, I mean, the work, having to move furniture. I mean, it got to be such a bore for me just because the only problem with me is that it's a double-edged sword. Because, like I said, being 6'3", if I had no muscle at all, people would still ask me to do stuff. They'd just be, oh, tall guy can do it. Go get the tall guy to do it. So,
Yep.
yeah, I mean, literally every other weekend this last summer, all my friends would just text me and they just say, like, hey, I'm moving. You want to come help me move some of my furniture? And it got to a point. I mean, I'm like, yeah, of course I'll help you. But got to a point where I did also have to tell them, look, I gotta get my workout in first before I help you move because I am not gonna get sore from moving for you and then not be able to work out. So
Right.
it's all about finding that as well. But I mean, probably one of my favorite questions to ask, and like you said, you wanted it to happen to you, but it's one of the things that happened to me too as well when I was in college. I mean, I'm bigger than I am now. I've lost a little bit of it, but I still work out a lot. But just being in bars, girls come up and feeling your arms all the time, and people just harassing you, asking you to arm wrestle, asking you to do all that stuff. Has
Uh,
that been similar with you, where people just take one look at you and they try to do all that type of stuff?
yeah, I actually get a lot over my Instagram, like through DMing and things like that. They're like, "How much can you bicep curl? How much like have you ever arm wrestled? Did you win?" And I'm like, I don't really know why I need to answer that question, but
Yeah, I
just
know.
like random things like that, and I'm just like, okay,
Yeah,
like
that
you can ask me other
Yeah.
questions, but
Well, yeah, and that's one of the things that I wasn't prepared for when I started this that I found really fascinating. It's like I always like to make the comparison. Like, there's always this story about, like, if you were the best gunfighter in the West, like in the old West, every time you'd walk into a bar, someone would want to challenge you because then they'd say, like, hey, I could become the best then by doing that. So if you are like the most muscular, the strongest person in the gym, people would always kind of want to challenge you then just so that they'd be. So that's the one bad thing with that. But it's something that I definitely learned, to sort of just go with the flow and just, let the people, do their thing because it's just one of those things that you definitely have to adjust to. But what
Mhm.
was your family's reaction like when you decided that you wanted to, really adapt that healthy and fit lifestyle and really wanted to go into the gym, become a personal trainer and, get bigger and get stronger? Did they support it? Or like some of the families that we have on here, they're kind of indifferent to it, but they just support you anyway.
They're definitely very, very supportive. But I do remember at one point, I think my brother said it to me. He's like, "Em, like, don't get too big, or guys won't like you." And then I thought to my head, and I was like, I don't really care because I don't
Yeah.
like guys.
Hmm.
So I'm just gonna keep getting bigger and stronger. But I think my parents would be super proud of
Hmm.
kind of where my muscles have taken me and just my physique in general. I know that they're very proud, and when they look at my pictures, they're pretty impressed
Yeah.
and pretty amazed, and show their friends and my family and everything. And obviously, that's super rewarding. And yeah, I couldn't be happier with how supportive everyone has been.
Yeah, and that's awesome because, like I say, the support system is probably the biggest thing that you can probably get, and that just really, really helps. Because I mean, I started out all by myself, and that was hard just enough as it is. But just having that one person there to motivate you, or just keep giving compliments, or just positive feedback, I mean, helps out so much. But we discussed this a little bit before we started recording. One of the things that I love to talk about because it's not talked about that much at all, especially on Instagram, is sleep. How important sleep can be. It is definitely for recovery. It is numero uno when it comes to most important things. I mean, you cannot underestimate the value of sleep when it comes to your recovery, when it comes to just being able to find ways to work out the next day, just mindset wise. What is the recommended amount of sleep that you like to tell all of your clients? I know because it might differ from person to person. Some people don't need as much sleep. And
Mhm.
also, how much sleep do you try to get in an average night?
I try to get like 9 hours if I can. That's awesome for me because sometimes I wake up in the night and I have to like whatever go to the washroom or something. So I really try to bank at least 8.5, something like that, because I often wake up. But Yeah, for me, I would say 9, and for the average person, I would say 7 to 8 for sure. And if you do exercise, more sleep the merrier, as you said, because recovery is super important for sleep. And in order for you to rebuild your muscles bigger and stronger, for them to go through that protein synthesis, you really need to have that downtime, that relaxation time. And just give your body that rest because you're constantly stressing it during the day, especially when you're working out, you're putting your body under stress. So giving it that time, that downtime to relax and for it to do its thing while you're sleeping is super, super important.
I mean, yeah, I couldn't say that again. And I always tell everyone, like, the best feeling in the entire world is when you've gotten a good amount of sleep after a really hard workout. Just waking up,
Oh,
then that is the greatest feeling in the entire world. I don't care what anyone says. I've had so many days where I wake up like that, and I'm just like, oh my god, I just feel like I'm in heaven. Based, I mean, it is so great. So sleep is, like I said, it is so important. And just make sure you're getting the right amount because, believe me, doing this podcast and working nights. I mean, some nights I get up, I only have like 4 hours of sleep, and there's a huge difference. And I always give the example when I was in college. I had one night where I didn't get any sleep at all. I pulled an all-nighter studying, and I decided to go to the gym at about 7 a.m. just to keep
oh,
myself awake. Hardest workout I've ever had to do in my entire life is a workout when you
don't
don't have any sleep. It is. I mean, I normally did like an hour and 15. I was out of there after like 40 minutes because I was like, yep, I can't do this anymore. And I got everything done, but I just had no rest in between, and I did a little bit lighter weight than I normally do. But yeah, it was horrible. And then I went back, and then yeah, it was dreadful. So again, everyone, do not try that. It will not
yeah.
turn out well. But
And right, because your body needs to also take all that food that you've eaten throughout the day and replenish your glycogen in your muscles so that you have that energy the next day when you go in at 7 a.m. to get that optimal workout in. But since you're so depleted, you can tell how that affected you.
yeah, and plus that was the earliest I've ever worked out, to be honest. I mean, I normally am more of like a noon to one-ish, like right before I got to go to work. But yeah, I've worked out earlier times, but that's just not for me. Usually a little bit later in the day. But yeah, everyone always has also has their different windows, and it's important to realize that too because not everyone's a night owl, not everyone's an early bird. So
Right.
just figuring that out as well. But
Yeah.
now we go to the most fun part of our podcast, a little questionnaire. We're going to ask Emily here about a dozen or so health and fitness questions that we ask all of our guests. And it's sort of a getting to know you, and we'll see how our answers stack up to all of our other guests. So, for our first
Cool.
question, what is your go to workout song at the moment?
Oh, that's a good question. I just downloaded a bunch of new songs actually. But after watching Bohemian Rhapsody,
Yep.
to be honest, Queen, I put on Radio Gaga, I put on Don't Stop Me Now. I would probably say Don't Stop Me Now by Queen. It just puts that fire under my ass. It just kickstarts me, and I absolutely love it.
I mean, my little brother is obsessed with. He's seen it like 6 times, I think, in theaters. I don't know.
Wow, I saw it twice.
I haven't seen it yet because I'm waiting. I'm one of those people where now how movie theaters are nowadays, and you can just watch everything at home. I just say, wait until it comes out and release, and then I'll watch it. But yeah,
Mhm.
I've heard great things about. I mean, it's gotten mixed reviews apparently because apparently it's not historically accurate in some parts, but otherwise, I mean, it's apparently got a great because it's been nominated and everything. So I can't wait to watch it. But yeah, I've always been a huge Queen fan. Like I said, I had bands on here, and I still have bands on here to talk about their stuff. So I mean, a lot of interesting stuff. Especially, I mean, Freddie Mercury is just one of the best vocalists of all time. Just what he was able to do with that voice is just
Yeah.
unbelievable. But yeah, so his music. But I'm also kind of I like my old school '80s, like my classic '80s. I love the cheese. The cheesier it is, the better. Just for me, just having that motivation to work out. So like I have the entire Rocky IV soundtrack on my iPod, and I listen to
Nice.
that every once in a while because that is the cheesiest soundtrack of all time. And I have at least one song that from that soundtrack that I play every workout just to get me motivated. But then, like I said before, leg days when I'm just really down in the dumps. I mean, you can always tell from watching some of my podcasts the days when I might look a little more depressed. That's because I got a leg day going on right after that. So I'm just mentally preparing myself for what's going to happen. Because I mean,
Yeah.
also at UPS, I mean, I walk like 20 miles a day because I'm 8 hours. I'm walking constantly. So when I have to work after leg days, those are the worst days ever. Where basically my legs just are numb halfway through my work day, and once they get numb, it's fine because you don't feel them, so you can just walk as much as you want. But
Right.
with that leg days, I got to get my Metallica and my Iron Maiden just because I got to get angry in order to be able to work out like that. But
Oh yeah.
I have a problem. So I have a gym at home, which is nice. So 75% of the time I work out at home. But when I do go to a normal gym, I'm one of those guys where I got to wait for the beat to drop before I start working out. So
Same.
I've had times, where I'm doing like lat pull downs and I'm just here like this for 30 seconds. I've had people come up to me and be like, "Hey man, are you all right? Did you like pull out your back or something like that?" I was like, "Nope, just waiting for the beat to drop." I mean,
Yep.
I'm known throughout my gym now as the guy that waits for the beat to drop. Like if I'm doing squats, let's say, I'll be back out and I'll be waiting. So yeah,
With the bench, anything like that, you gotta wait for it because when you feel it,
Mhm.
you just have that much more just like buzzing through
Mhm.
you, and hey, you might get an extra rep or two in
Yeah,
there.
and plus there have been studies that have shown, yeah, well, especially for guys with extra added testosterone boost that you get when you do get motivated like that from the working out. So yeah, and for women too, I mean, just the extra added, just pumping up, just the adrenaline really kicks in. So yeah, I recommend that to everyone. But now, out of all the celebrities on the planet, if you could work out with any celebrity, who'd it be?
Ooh, The Rock. Yeah, he just seems like such a nice, genuine, cool guy, and oh my gosh, I can't imagine what his workouts are like. I've seen like pictures of his gym that he has at his place and everything, and he's got his own line of gym gear and everything now. But I think he would be an amazing workout partner, and he would be so motivating and so inspiring, and just
Mhm.
kill me. So,
Yeah, he's by far our most popular answer 90% of the time. And I was so shocked when he posted his diet and he eats like pounds upon pounds of asparagus like every single day. He
what-
has and I was like, first of all, I don't like asparagus, so that wouldn't work. But yeah, his diet and his training routine is just insane. So yeah, he is by far our most popular answer. But now, probably one of the most interesting questions now is out of all the celebrities on the planet, if you could train any celebrity, who would it be?
ooh, that's a really good question. I would like to get more involved with the LGBT people, so maybe I would train Ellen. I would really love to
Mhm.
be her workout partner and to even like show people on like go on her show and like just show them what we do in our workouts and things like that. And I think Ellen's a super cool person. I feel like she'd be really nice and chill to work
Mhm.
out with, and just a really good role model as well. And I think we would get along well.
Oh
So
yeah, and she's one of the nicest people on the planet, yeah, too. So I mean, that's just one of the benefits, and yeah, that would be great, and she's in really good shape too. So I mean, she would give you a run for your money because yeah,
right?
yeah,
Yeah.
she's. I mean, most people can't tell because she never wears anything other than a jacket, but she does have a lot of stuff down underneath. You can tell just from doing some of the things that she does on her show. But yeah, she's in great shape. But for me, I mean, for a girl, it would be Jennifer Aniston. I mean, for obvious reasons, I would be drooling the entire time, but so I would.
Okay. Yeah, that's a different question.
That's a
If I'm
different question. Yeah, that's a different question. So for me, Jennifer Aniston, I mean, I always said she's my. If I could get her on this podcast, I would just quit what I'm doing right now because I'd be like, it can't get any better than this. Like I'm done now. I'm retired. I did what I came here to do. But
yeah.
yeah, that would definitely be my
Well,
ultimate. But
mine
like,
would be Candace Swanepoel. She's
ooh,
the
yep.
Victoria's Secret angel.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my goodness, her. Yeah, I would be the same as you. I'd be drooling the whole time. I don't think I'd be able to focus.
So it's funny though that you said that. So one of my guests yesterday, she was a Victoria's Secret model for like in the '90s, and now she does modeling coaching, and she has worked with Victoria's Secret angels. She worked with like Miranda Kerr, and she worked with
Oh,
Giselle for a little bit. So when that gets released, I will definitely let you know. I mean, it was a very interesting conversation to talk about. Like she talked about
yeah.
what their extreme diets that they go through. I mean, the eating disorders that they overcome, and just
Oh,
all of that stuff. We talk about everything. So it was really really fascinating. So I'll definitely send you a link for that because yeah, I had so much fun talking to her. She was such a great guest. But yeah, Candice,
yeah.
yeah, I know exactly who you're talking about.
I'm very curious about their workouts and their eating habits because, like, when they do those shows on, they premiere it on NBC
Mhm,
or whatever every Christmas time,
mhm,
and they're always so small, and I can only guess they haven't eaten the 2 days before the show and just
mhm.
things like that. And I would be very interested to hear what it's like because they do those little snippets where they talk about their workouts and stuff, and I'm like, okay, like how often are you working
Yeah.
out? Like, are you always doing the same thing? Like, yeah.
Yeah, well, and then for her, she said it was like sometimes it's like 500 to 600 calories a day when you're getting close to those shows, and it's yeah, it's just it's ridiculous. But she tries to teach the models healthy ways on how to lose weight, but not go to that certain extreme. But so yeah, I mean, it was really really fascinating. Yeah, Candace, yeah, I couldn't agree with you more on that one. But now moving on before we both start drooling, moving
Yes.
on. So now, what is one item that you always need to have in your fridge?
Ooh, one item I always need to have in my fridge. The food or liquid, like, does it matter?
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Okay.
But don't say water, because I was gonna say that's the most basic answer that we've gotten. Someone's like water, and I was like, okay, get off, you're done.
I wouldn't say water,
Yeah.
but number one thing to have in my fridge. I'm big on like avocados, so like I start a lot of mornings, or I'll have for lunch. I'll just put like slice of bread, avocado, eggs. Oh, eggs. Let's go eggs. I'm gonna say eggs because you can do so much with it. It's so easy. I just add like eggs and rice. That's gonna be my meal, or I can do, like I said, my egg toast avocado. It's a really good way to get protein, good way to get some fat as well. And it's just a really easy meal to make, and I have it very, very often, and I find I never get tired of it.
That is probably, I mean, that's close to being tied for our most popular answer. I mean, chicken is our most popular, but egg whites or just eggs in general is just right up there. One of the most surprising answers, though, I got from this was talking to a lot of the Bible is mustard, because mustard is zero in calories, it's zero in
Mm.
fat. So sometimes they just douse their chicken in mustard just to give it a little bit of flavor. And I always tell them, I was like, if you have to do that, you might want to reevaluate your life if you're having to put mustard on your chicken.
Oh, it's not that good.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's what I say too. It's like, really, I was like, if you're that desperate, I mean, you need to talk to someone. I mean, so, but yeah, I always give them a hard time for that. But now, out of
Yeah.
all the followers that you have, what would you say would be the most surprising thing about you that they would find out if they met you in person?
Surprising. I think people might think I'm bigger in
Mhm,
person than I am. I'm a pretty petite
mhm,
person, to be honest. I'm like almost 5'5".
yeah,
I weigh like a buck 30,
mhm,
give or take. But yeah, I think people are always surprised by how kind of small I am. And because I obviously don't really look like it through my pictures,
yeah.
because they're going to be closer up, you're going to have my muscles in your face or whatever. So you can't really tell. But I would probably say that I'm just I'm not that small,
Mhm.
but I'm
Yeah.
I'm small but mighty.
Well, and I can say thank you. You're the first. I mean, you're going to be like our 20th Canadian that we had on the podcast. I love having our neighbors to the north on, and you're the first one that used pounds when talking about how much you weigh. We always get the kilograms, and I was like, I got to include the translation then down below for all the Americans because they're too lazy to look them up themselves. But yeah, so and again, that is again probably our most popular answer because, like you said, with all the cameras and the way that it manipulates them, I've had guests come on that they look like they're 6 feet in the photos, and I'm like, how tall are you? And they're like, oh, I'm 5 feet tall. I was like, oh, okay. That's where for me, it's the exact opposite. I mean, for me,
I would never have guessed that you were 6'3".
yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's I mean, it's one of those things too where I find that very, very fascinating where even yeah, people I mean, it's very funny. I mean, I've never met any of my guests in person in person, but I always thought, that would definitely be the most interesting when they see me walking up and they're like, "Oh yeah, he's actually that tall. Wow, that's weird." So,
Mm,
yeah, I mean, it's another thing. It's why I love having guests come on cuz you find out stuff about them that you normally would have never known. But now, what is one thing, if you had the all knowing power to do so, what was one thing that you would like to see change about the health and fitness industry in general?
that's a good question. I'd rather see people working out to benefit their bodies rather than because they hate their bodies.
Mhm.
I find a lot of people are dragging themselves in there because they're like, "Oh, I have to do this. I have to do it because I have to lose weight. I don't like how I look. I don't whatever it is." And everybody does have their reasons, but I really do think it should come from a healthy perspective. Like it should become like you want to do something for your body. You want to give your body what it deserves, what it needs, and treating it with respect and just and that could be physically and mentally and nutritionally, just overall just taking care of yourself and doing it for positive reasons and not because you're doing it because I ate that chocolate bar last night or I had a couple cheat meals this week to make up for it. I want it to be more just this is my body, this is what it wants, this is what it deserves, and I want to give it everything that it can so that I can continue to live a healthier, happier, longer life.
I mean, you said it perfectly. I mean, I don't think I could have said it any better because I've had so many guests come on where they talk about, and for so many people, like you said, it was your motivation, it was my motivation too. Like you wanted to be noticed, you wanted people to realize, like, hey, look at that, and I mean, that's every guy's motivation basically as well too. They just want to have that confidence too. But I've had so many people, I've had the most in shape people on the planet come on, and they say, if your mindset isn't correct, but when you get started, if you're just doing it just for that look, once you get that look, you're gonna realize, hey, I don't feel any better. I mean, I might get more attention, but mentally, I'm just like, it's still
Yeah.
the same. Because I've had some people that, they have an 8 pack, they have, just the biggest arms, and then they're like, yeah, I still didn't feel good about myself. So that's what I cannot stress enough to people. If there's one message that you take out of this entire podcast, it's that you have to have your mental aspect go along with your physical transformation. Otherwise, it's not going to work. And then that's when you see people put on weight back again because mentally they just don't care that they look good enough. They
Mhm.
just wanted to do it just to start, but they didn't realize that mentally you have to make a change as well. So yeah, I couldn't agree with you more on that. But now we
Yeah.
go to the fun part of the questionnaire. So what was the last TV show you binge watched?
I I'm currently binge watching Shameless, actually, the US version.
Yeah, that is good. That is a good one. I've
I love it. I think it's
I've heard
hilarious.
about it. I haven't watched it myself, but I mean, so many recommendations that I might give it a try. But I just binge watched the You on Netflix.
Oh, how was that?
It was a lot better than I thought it'd be good. So I only started watching it because I had like 5 guests in a row say that was the last TV show they binge watched, and I was like, oh, I might give it a shot. So then last Saturday, in between podcasts, I had like a podcast early in the morning, and then late in the day, I watched about half of the whole series, and then the next day, I finished watching the other half. And yeah, it was very good. I highly recommend it. I
Oh,
mean, the,
okay. That's better review than I've got. I've heard like kind of mixed things, but I kind of got the vibe that it was like Gossip Girly. I don't know.
I just like it because it showed kind of how easy it is for people to lose their privacy with all of our technology that we have, because this guy is basically able to stalk this girl and find out everything about her without even meeting her, really, just
Right.
by like finding out, like, he's able to download her info, and then he knows exactly where she lives, like what she does, all that. I mean, it's crazy. It doesn't help out for people like me who basically have to stalk people's Instagrams just to get them to come on a podcast, so it kind
Yeah.
of, ruins it for me. But yeah, I mean, I totally, when I saw that, I was like, oh, that's interesting. And you get to hear like inside the thoughts of a guy who's crazy, so it's always interesting to see that aspect. Like, I'm a fan of those type of things where you get to see like why people do what they do, what motivated them to
Mhm.
do these bad. So I thought it was very, very interesting. But now,
I
what is
think
your
that'll be insightful too to
yeah,
people. Just to be like, make sure your stuff is private. Make
yeah,
sure you're protected, and that way
yeah,
this isn't gonna happen to you,
yeah?
kind of
Oh yeah,
thing.
like he gets her phone and she doesn't have a passcode to like unlock her phone, so he just uses it and he tracks it so that he can receive every text that she receives, so he knows
Oh,
like who's talking to her. And yeah, it's really, really fascinating. But now, what is your favorite TV show of all time?
oh. I'd say Family Guy. I cannot get enough Family Guy. I've seen it all the way through so many times, and I just constantly find it funny. Constantly don't get tired of it, don't get bored of it, and I don't know. I just love to laugh, and I love to be uplifted by TV shows. Like, don't get me wrong, the thrillers and everything are awesome, but I always have to lighten the mood after them anyway with like Office or Family Guy or whatever it is.
I
So,
mean, yeah, Family Guy's definitely in my top 10, but for me, it's a three-way tie between The Office, Friends, and South Park.
oh, I
I
haven't
love South
watched
Park.
South Park.
I love South Park just a little bit more than Family Guy, but Family Guy is great. I don't know if you'd like South Park as much because of their portrayal of Canadians, but
I've
I
kind of heard that.
I always find that really, really funny. But yeah, I mean, I absolutely love those shows. But now everyone always has one. What is a guilty pleasure movie that you enjoy?
Guilty pleasure movie. Oh, I love me some musicals.
Ooh,
So, like Rocky Horror
that's a good one.
or Hairspray
Mhm.
or Moulin Rouge. Like, honestly, any musical, I'm in it.
Yeah, my favorite musical. I mean, I'm not normally into a lot of musicals, but just because I watched it so much as a kid because it was my mom's favorite, was Grease. I mean,
Oh,
that,
yeah, yeah.
that's my favorite. I mean, we're even still to this day. But my guilty pleasure movie, again, all my guy friends, close your ears. You'll never hear me admit this in person. Princess Bride.
Okay, I never really got into that. I think I've watched it like once.
Yeah. It's one of those movies where I've seen it enough where I can quote it, like half the time. And I mean, I like it so much. It's just one of those fun movies where if it's ever on TV, you stop what you're doing if it's not important, and then you automatically watch it. So like, I was typing my thesis paper in college, and that came on. I stopped doing my thesis paper, and if that isn't dedication, I don't know what is. But so yeah, Princess Bride. All my guy friends, like I said, you'll never hear me admit it in person, but if you watch the podcast, you will hear it. But
Oh,
now, but now for our final two questions of the questionnaire part of the podcast. So, what is your favorite fashion trend of all time and least favorite fashion trend of all time?
fashion trends. I still hate Crocs. Nothing will ever make me like Crocs.
Yes.
No matter how people say it's comfortable, doesn't make you sweat as much. I'm just
Preach.
not about the Croc
Hmm.
life. But fashion trend that I like now. I not personally on myself, but I do like seeing the higher waisted jeans come back. I think they look really nice on a lot of people, not necessarily everyone, but if it really fits you very nicely and just people rock it, and I think that's a really good trend that they brought back. I thought
Yeah.
it looked
Yeah. For me personally, I mean,
oh,
being
yoga pants.
ooh,
Too.
yep, that too. That too.
Whew. Yeah,
For
can't forget
viewing
about
for viewing pleasure, yeah, that's my favorite. But from
that. Yeah.
me personally, I mean, probably flannel, just because when it gets cold up here in the winter, I mean, that's one of the warmest things that you can put on. So for probably flannel, but then so excuse me, I'll edit that out. But so then three, two, one. So for my least favorite, I would say, my dad ruined it in the late '90s. Fanny packs.
Oh yeah.
Now, don't get me wrong. Women can rock a fanny pack. I say that every single time. But guys, I'm sorry, you can no dice. And if there's like, I know I said already that if there's one thing I can help anyone with this podcast, but if there's one thing that I can do, stop the spread of fanny packs because they are making a slight comeback. I just do not like
I use one when I work out. It's like a tiny little one. It's not like a normal one with all the different pockets. But because a lot of women's workout gear doesn't have pockets,
Mm-hmm.
so when you don't have pockets, you're like, okay, where am I going to put my phone or whatever it is? So that's honestly a lot of the reason why I carry a little fanny pack.
I honestly don't know why they don't have pockets in like yoga pants or any of those things. It's weird.
If they do, they're like not very big or they're inconvenient, and like gym shorts just basically don't have them, so it's
Mhm.
super annoying.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I for fanny packs for what you're talking about, I agree.
Yeah, 100%. But now for our last question on the questionnaire, if you were able to go back in time and talk to the 18-year-old version of yourself, what would be the best piece of advice you would give her?
Um, to be confident, even before like you thought you were with fitness, just being confident in yourself and as a person. You don't need muscles and all these other things to be confident. You can be confident in yourself, just being who you are and being a good person and making everyone else feel the same way.
I couldn't agree more with that. And now we're done with the questionnaire. So the final two questions I love to ask everyone before we wrap things up. So if we were to talk to you again in a year, what would be your goal of where would you like to be at in your life?
I would like to get more involved with my well, actually, I'm taking a entrepreneurship program at the college here in London. And what it does, it's setting
London,
yourself.
Canada, everyone.
Yes, not London, UK, which I wish I was talking about.
Yeah, too.
But yeah, so I'm taking this entrepreneurship program, and it's a 2 semester program. So it's just setting you up basically to start your own business.
Mhm.
And so I would hopefully like to start my own business within the next year or two, and my own studio, workout studio, keep doing my Instagram, keep uploading videos, trying to get more involved with that and partnering maybe with people through that.
Mhm.
But my goal right now would definitely be to open my business within the next year.
And we honestly wish you nothing but the best of success in that. And if you do open it, let me know. I'd love to give it a plug on here. I mean, I love helping out all the guests that we have. And now,
Yeah,
lastly, is there anyone that you would like to give a shout out to?
definitely want to give a shout out to my girlfriend. She's been the most supportive and been there for me through the whole thing. She's been with me for over 2 years now. So, been with me through a lot of the changes with going through this program to open my own business, becoming a personal trainer. She was actually the person that I was training during my like getting my certificate. So that's just helping me stay on track with my goals, just being just super supportive in general. So I think she needs to know that.
Again, shout out to her girlfriend, everyone. But now, again, everyone,
Yeah.
we cannot thank you enough, Emily, for coming on. I mean, we love having guests come on and share their stories. And I mean, you were just an awesome guest to talk to. I mean, we have another Canadian on the podcast, so chalk that one up. I mean, I've had guests. I mean, my goal is to get a guest from every one of the English speaking countries. And the only one I'm missing out of right now is New Zealand. So I'm currently trying my hardest to get someone from New Zealand on the podcast. My Aussies, I mean, I had 2 of them on, and that was hard enough because of the 16-hour time difference. I mean, I'm talking to them like at 3 a.m. and it's like noon or what. It's like midnight. Then they're like 7 o'clock at night. Like it was so hard to figure that out. But yeah, and then I had an English guy, and then I've had a lot of Canadians. So yeah, I mean, I cannot, and I had an Irish person. That was an interesting conversation. Could barely understand what they were saying, but yeah,
That'll test your ears a little bit.
yeah, absolutely. So again, you guys, we cannot thank her enough. I will leave a link down below to her Instagram page. Everyone go and check her out. Just by looking at some of the photos, you're going to be inspired to get off the couch and stop eating those Twinkies. Yeah, look at that gun control right there. She doesn't, don't worry, it's licensed. She's got a permit. So yeah.
We're okay here in Canada.
Yeah, especially in Canada. Yeah, in Canada, you got to have licensing for that. So yeah, you have to do it. But yeah, again, you guys, go and give her a follow. I highly, highly recommend it. And everyone, this is Ryan Johnson, DD on the spot signing out. Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you.